Good morning, everyone. This is Shelley with CRMLS. Can someone just please confirm that you can see my screen?
Good morning. I can see it.
Perfect. Thank you. We're a little bit early, so I'm just going to mute here and wait for some others to join. Well, good morning, everyone. This is Shelley with CRMLS. I am going to be your presenter today for the top violations overview. It's just 1 minute after 10, so I'm going to give us until 10:02 for everyone, maybe any latecomers to join, and then we'll get started. So just bear with me about another 30 seconds or so. Okay, we are going to go ahead and get started. Again, my name is Shelley. I'm one of the supervisors here in the compliance department at CRMLS. And today we're going to be going over the top violations that the compliance department encounters on a regular basis. We're also going to touch a little bit on the clear cooperation policy, registered process, and status of coming soon. So let's go ahead and get started. So if you need to reach the compliance department, you go to our website, which is crmls.org, and it's going to populate this screen here. You're going to highlight, we've highlighted how to reach compliance. Once you get into the compliance section of our website, you're going to find all sorts of good information and resources there. There's going to be our rules and policies, our citation policy, some forms that I'll be mentioning during the course of my presentation today. This is where you access our live chat. There's also going to be plenty of other resources and FAQs that are available to you regarding compliance topics. So we do get asked where our rules and policies come from. So initially our rules are based on model rules that are developed by CAR and NAR. But we have additional rules that are proposed by the CRMLS Rules Committee. This Rules Committee is made up of one member of each of our 41 participating associations. So we have 41 participating association memberships, and each one of those associations has one member that is an MLS Rules Committee member. So all of those rules committee members, they get together on a regular basis. They bring to the table ideas for new rules maybe that have been recommended to them, maybe revisions they'd like to see to rules, maybe removal of rules. They also are the ones that determine whether or not a rule comes with a warning, and also the fine amount that is attached to a citation in the event that a violation does occur. So once they have enough information that they would like to proceed with, they then present this to the CRMLS Board of Directors for approval. And once they approve the rule or any changes, then that information is passed down to the compliance department, and our job at that point is to enforce those rules. So here is a screenshot of our citation policy. It's broken down into 4 columns. The first column is the rule number. Second column is whether the rule comes with a warning. The third column is a summary of the rule. And then the fourth column is the fine amount in the event that you are found in violation and receive a citation. So a rule that does not come with a warning, I'm sorry, let's start with a rule that does come with a warning. We are going to reach out to you and we are going to ask you to probably make a correction to your listing if we receive a report that there's something that needs to be corrected on a listing and we can verify that. We're going to reach out, ask you to make that correction within 2 days. We also may reach out and ask you for additional documentation that you will need to provide to us within 2 days. In either of these cases, if we have no response within 2 days, then we will move forward at that time and issue a citation. If a rule does not come with a warning, then we are not going to give you that opportunity to make any corrections. We will straight just issue a citation with the fine amount. In either of these cases, if you do receive a citation, you do have to take action. You can't just ignore it. So you can either just choose to pay the fine and then that will resolve everything and you will be done if there still isn't a correction that needs to be made. Or you can request what's called a citation review request. So this is sort of an appeals process. You're going to fill out a form on our website under compliance. It's got mandatory fields. It's super simple to fill out. You're going to then forward that over to the compliance department electronically. Once we receive it, you should receive back a confirmation indicating that it has been received by us. You do need to, if you're going to go this route or if you're going to pay the fine, again, 20 calendar days is the time that you have to respond. So once that citation review request reaches us, we will then take the fine amount that's attached to that citation and we will temporarily withdraw it. We're going to take the rest of the information you have provided us on that form and we're going to package it up with our case notes or our investigation notes. And we will forward it over to your grievance committee at your association for them to review and make a final determination as to whether or not they are going to uphold the citation that was issued. If they choose to uphold it, then they're going to let us know and we will at that point reinstate that fine amount. They do have a fee. It's not a CRMLS fee. It's an association fee. It's an administrative fee in order to process your citation reviews. So that fee is $100 for just a written review. So all they do is review the documentation, or there's a $200 fee if you prefer a virtual hearing in person so that you can in person make your case. So if they uphold our citation, depending on which of those options you've chosen, then that administrative fee will also be tacked onto that invoice and you'll have 30 days to pay that invoice. Okay, so here's the top violations we are going to cover today. We're going to start with photo guidelines and restrictions. So this has to do with branded media. So your virtual tours, photos, and any media submitted to the MLS cannot be branded. Branding is promotional information that leads back to you as the listing agent or broker. So photographs and virtual tours cannot contain any of the following items here. So no agent, broker, brokerage names, photos, or logos, no phone numbers, website addresses, email addresses, no for sale signs, for lease signs, open house signs, no messages, no solicitations, no text overlays. None of those things can be within your photos or virtual tours. The largest violation we see here, biggest offender, are for sale signs that are uploaded to a listing. So perhaps your yard sign is already up. You go to take your required exterior photo or your photographer does, and that yard sign is there. You capture all of the content information on that yard sign and you post it. That's identifying information that leads back to you as the broker or agent, and those photos will be removed. There is no warning on these, so you will receive a fine without any sort of a warning. This goes for virtual tours as well. All of these things cannot be mentioned, or I'm sorry, cannot be identified in any of your virtual tours. One of the things we see with virtual tours has to do with the end of a virtual tour. There may be a pop-up window for a few seconds that says, for more information about the property you just viewed, contact, and there's contact information. That is not allowed. And unfortunately, in those cases, if a virtual tour is branded, then we will take down the entire tour. So be mindful of what your virtual tour consists of. When it comes to images of people on the MLS, try and make it a rule of thumb to just not include people in any of your photos. It just makes it easier and safer for you. Any photos containing children will be immediately removed from the MLS for safety purposes. Same thing with animals. So if you're selling a ranch style property and maybe there's animals on the property, in a pasture, in a barn, in a corral, as long as the photo is more of the majority of the property and not more of the animal, which I have an example of here in just a minute, it will probably be okay. Same thing with people. So sometimes it's impossible if you're trying to showcase a park or the beach. There might be people walking in the park, walking on the beach. As long as they're not identifiable, then they're probably going to be okay. But photos are a case-by-case basis. So here is an example of what would be acceptable. So these people cannot be identified. So this photo would be acceptable. This photo would not. So someone would be able to identify these people if they knew them. Their faces are just too close to the camera, so these would not be acceptable photos. Animals in photos. Again, you can tell that this is a ranch style property. There's the home in the background, there's the pasture fence. So there happen to be horses, that's okay. This is not okay. This horse does not go, well, it most likely doesn't go with the sale of the property. It really has nothing to do with the property. So this would not be acceptable. Moving on to copyright issues under the same rule, 11.5. So copyright issues mean that submitting any media to the MLS, you as the subscriber or participant represent and warrant that you own the right to reproduce and display the media, or that you have procured such rights and necessary licenses from the appropriate parties. So what does that mean? Basically, this rule boils down to origination or creation of media or photos, and then the right to use those photos. So we have 3 different scenarios here. Hopefully this will make it a little easier to understand. So scenario number 1 is if you take the photos yourself, do you need permission to use those on the MLS? And of course, the answer to that is no, because you don't have to ask anyone permission to use your own photos. So scenario number 2 is if a photographer takes the photos on your behalf, do you need permission to upload those to the MLS? And the answer to this is yes. So even though you may have paid for those photos, does not mean you own them. You did not take those photos. You're not the creator or originator of those photos. The photographer owns those photos, and therefore need to provide you with written authorization to use the photos that they have created or generated. Some photographers have their own written agreements. We don't really recommend that you sign those, because most of the time we have found that they protect the photographer more than they protect you. However, there is a form in Zip Forms. It's called the PIA, or the Property Images Agreement Form, which I have an example of here in just a minute. That's just a recommended form that we recommend you try and use or have your photographer sign. We hear some photographers won't sign it. They insist that you sign their form. We can't dictate what form of authorization you actually end up using, but you do need to get some sort of written authorization to upload photos from a photographer. You also need to make sure that the photos you're uploading are originals. So scenario number 3 is if you use photos from a prior listing or another website. So let's say you have a new listing, and just for the heck of it, you go back into the MLS and you look at that property the last time it was listed. And maybe they have some really great photos. Maybe they're of the HOA, maybe they're just property photos, but you really like them. Maybe it'll save you time. You want to use those photos on this new listing that you have. You are allowed to use those, but you have to do a little bit of work first. So first of all, You need to find out who took those photos. Was it the previous listing agent or did they hire a photographer? Whoever it was is who you need to get the written authorization and the original photos from. So let's say that it was the previous listing agent and they say, yeah, sure, I don't have any problem you using my photos. They provide you with written authorization to do so. You must get the originals from them. You cannot, even with permission, go into a previous listing and right click and copy a photo and then upload it to your new listing. Have to use the originals. When you upload an original photo to the MLS, there's something in the bottom right corner that's generated. It's called a watermark. And this is how we know that this is an original photo. And if we get reports that someone is using my photos and I didn't give them permission, what we look for immediately is a watermark. And any photos that have a double watermark. Because if the previous listing agent uploaded the photo, it generated a watermark. Now you right click and copy that photo that has the watermark, you bring it over to your listing. When you upload it to your listing, you're generating a new watermark. Now you've got a double watermark. You've got one from the first photo and one from the one that you just uploaded. So that's when we look for a double watermark if we receive reports that someone is using photos without permission. Those photos, if they're found to be double watermarked, we take them down and it's a very hefty $1,500 fine. So please never right click and copy any photos from a previous listing, even if you have permission. You always must obtain the originals. Moving on, can I use Getty, Google, Bing, Yahoo, Getty, or other third-party images? And the answer to this is no. And the reason why is because those third parties are never going to provide you with the appropriate amount of written authorization that you need to use those photos. So just stay away from any third-party images. What we see most with this has to do with Google Street View photos. So perhaps you don't have time to go out and take your exterior photo. You're running out of your 2 days that you're required to do so to upload that photo. So you just grab a Google Street View off the computer and you pop that in as your exterior photo. That is in violation and it will also result in a $1,500 fine. Third-party images also apply to things such as Google Maps or aerial views, anything along those lines. So again, always use originals and always get permission to use whatever media it is that you're using. So this is a double watermarked photo. You can see where the red arrow is pointing. There's an original CRMLS, and then there's a larger CRMLS that went over the top of it. So that's a classic double watermark right there. That photo would be taken down and it would be a $1,500 fine. This is the property images agreement form that I was mentioning. So this can be found in zip forms. Again, it's just recommended. It is not required that you use this particular form. There is space on here if a photographer wants to write in special notes or special terms. They can do so, you can do so. So it is a little flexible. Again, any written authorization that you obtain for using photos or media, you do not need to turn into us. You just need to keep it for your files in the event that we ask for it down the road. Okay, exterior photograph requirements. So a listing must include at least one exterior photo of the structure listed in the MLS. A compliant exterior photo must be added to the listing within 2 calendar days of entering the listing, and it must remain on the listing at all times for all statuses. So you enter a new listing, you have 2 days to upload at least one exterior photo of a substantial portion of the property. So it cannot just be a close-up of a front door. It does need to show the majority of the property. It does not have to be the front of the property. It can be the back if the backyard maybe is more attractive and you can capture the majority of the structure, then you can use a backyard photo. It also does not have to be the first photo on your listing. That's not a rule. As long as you have an exterior photo somewhere within your photos, if we get a report, we will go look for it. And you do need to have an exterior photo there. So this exterior photo, needs to remain on the listing at all times for all statuses. So if your listing, let's say you close escrow, or maybe your listing expires, or you cancel it, you still need to leave at least one exterior photo. You can remove all the other photos, but there always has to be one exterior photo. So please remember that. The only exception to this exterior photo rule is if your listing agreement cancels within the first 2 calendar days after you have entered it, so the listing just isn't going to take place anymore, then we're not going to require you to have that exterior photo. The other exception to this would be a business opportunity exclusion. So if your listing is a business opportunity, sometimes there isn't anything to take a picture, photo of. So we're not going to require a photo on business opportunity listings. So this is an example of a substantial portion of the exterior of the property. This is not a substantial portion of the exterior of the property. This would not suffice as an exterior photo, either one of these. Okay, when it comes to removal of photographs after a listing is finalized, so let's say that your listing successfully closes escrow, we get a lot of inquiries from buyer's agents that say, hey, my buyers just closed on this property and they want the photos of the property taken down. They don't want them out there on the internet anymore. Unfortunately, at that point, it's too late for us. So once a listing is in a finalized status, per Rule 11.8, we cannot remove anything historical on that listing. So we can't make any changes to anything. No verbiage, no features, no photos. We can't take photos down. The only thing that we can do at that point is we can turn off what's this called the syndication feed. So when you enter a listing, your listings get syndicated out to third-party sites such as Trulia, Realtor.com, those types of things. We can turn that feed off. So the listing will no longer go out as a sold listing now. However, anything that went out previously when it was being syndicated out could still be out there on those third-party sites. In that case, you would have to contact that third-party site directly and request for the photos to be removed. But we are able to turn that syndication feed off and stop those listings from going out any further. That request does have to come from the listing agent or their broker or office manager. Okay, so moving on to inaccurate information. So this rule is 8.3. It's pretty self-explanatory. Just make sure that the information that you are uploading to your listing is true and accurate to the best of your knowledge, that you've done some due diligence to make sure that everything you're entering on your listing is true and accurate. This has to do with that one tab when you're entering a listing of features. All those boxes, it seems like there's hundreds of them. Just make sure that you're not blazing through there so fast that you either miss something or you accidentally check something off that maybe the property doesn't have. Double check simple things such as your bedroom and bathroom count, your square footage. What we see a lot with inaccurate information has to do with inaccurate map pin location. We see a lot of inaccurate areas that were selected. This also could pertain to inaccurate listing status. So we will get reports from buyers agents that say, hey, I am under contract in escrow with this on this property, and the contract was signed, or the RPA was signed 6 days ago, and the listing agent still hasn't changed the status to either active under contract or pending. You do have 2 days. The listing status must be changed on an accepted offer within 2 days of the acceptance date to either active under contract or pending. We will reach out. This does have a warning attached to it. So we will reach out to you if you're the listing agent and we get this report, and we'll ask you to please correct that status. But just know that inaccurate information does apply to inaccurate status as well as all of the other details. Okay, this rule also covers auto sold listings. So when you do have an accepted offer, your seller accepts the offer, you have your 2 days to either place the listing as active under contract or pending. The difference there being active under contract means that the seller is still accepting backup offers. Pending, they are not accepting backup offers. Once you go in to make this change, there's going to be a mandatory field for the estimated close of escrow date. So you're going to have to enter a date there. You need to keep an eye on this date, because if this date comes and then 5 days pass and nothing from that date and nothing has been changed on that date, so you either didn't close escrow and close out your listing, you didn't update the listing, maybe your escrow got extended and you didn't update it, you have to keep an eye on that date and you have to keep the accuracy current. So if you don't, maybe your escrow got extended by 10 days and you don't go in and update that date to 10 days down the road. Well, 5 days after the date that you originally entered, the system is going to close your listing out for you. It's going to be an auto sold listing. You'll know it's closed and that you're in auto sold because number one, your status will now say closed, and there'll be a red flag next to closed telling you, hey, red flag, there's a problem here. You also, at that point, unfortunately, won't have access to your listing anymore. So you're going to have to reach out to us. We're going to refer you to our portion of the website, to a form called the auto sold correction form. You're going to have to fill that out, send it back to us, wait for us to get to that form and make any corrections to the listing to open it back up for you. So again, much easier just from the beginning to keep an eye on that date and keep that date current and accurate. We do try and remind you that that date is coming. So we start sending you notifications 14 days ahead of time. You say, hey, in 14 days is your estimated close of escrow date. And then we send notifications on the schedule here, 7 days ahead, 1 day ahead, the day of, 2 days after, and 5 days after. So this is a very easily avoidable violation. Just please pay attention to it. Okay, moving on to public remarks restrictions. So this is your property description field or your public remarks field, same thing. This field should only be used to describe the property's physical and aesthetic characteristics. So there are certain things that should not go in here. This is a public-facing field, and there's certain information that the public should not be privy to. Things such as gate codes to complexes, showing instructions. So showing instructions, first of all, you have a special field for that. And an example of this would be, we had an agent put in the public remarks, please do not show the property between these hours on these days because there are small children home alone in the home. That's obviously a security issue. We had another one that said, please don't show the property on these days because the seller is a fireman and no one's home. Well, when you tell the public that, it opens it up for lots of things that could happen that are not good. Compensation information, again, not for the public to know. There's a special field for that. Please use it. Lockbox information, again, special field for that, or put the lockbox location in private remarks. We don't need to be pointing out where the keys to the property are. Occupancy status of the property, please don't put in the property description field that the property is vacant. We don't want the public knowing that the house is sitting there all alone. No email addresses, phone numbers, agent, or brokerage information can go in this field. The reason why is because if you are a buyer's agent and you're sending listings out to your clients, and if we were to allow the listing agent's contact information in here, there's nothing stopping that potential buyer from contacting the listing agent. You could end up losing your client. Just a lot of things could go bad. So we don't allow that to be blatantly placed here in this field. Open house information, you need to place that information in the open house fields. And then any language that violates applicable fair housing guidelines. So we do have on our website, under compliance, there's a button that says knowledge base. And if you click on knowledge base, it's going to bring up a search bar. If you type in fair housing in that search bar, it's going to bring up a list. And this list is broken down into 3 sections. So the first section is a group of words or terms that are okay to use that would not be found in violation. The second group of words is words that you should be careful using or how you use them. And then there's a third group of words or terms that say, please do not use any of these words or terms because they will be found in violation of fair housing. So I always recommend that everyone visit that list at least once. Again, you can reach it through compliance, knowledge base, type in fair housing, and it'll bring that document up. Okay, then the last rule is failure to correct a violation. So this is rule 14.4, and it reads that failure to correct a violation will result in the issuance of a second citation and fine under rule 14.4 issued to the listing agent. So if you received a citation for some reason, and within that citation, we requested that you make a correction to your listing, and you don't make that correction, we will issue a second citation under this rule. You're not getting a citation twice for the same violation. The first citation was for the violation. This second citation is for basically not listening when we asked you to correct it within the first citation. So if you're unfortunate enough to get a second citation under this rule, we also within this citation are going to give you another 2 days to please make whatever correction is that we're looking for. If you still do not make that correction, then we will not issue anything to you anymore. However, your broker of record or your office manager will get a citation with no warning in the amount of $250 under this rule for failing to supervise. If the broker gets this this citation and they choose not to pay the fine, they could be eligible for suspension from the MLS. And if a broker gets suspended from the MLS, then the entire office that operates under that broker's license could lose their access until that broker makes it right. So I don't think anybody wants to be the subject of getting their broker suspended from the MLS. The reason why we issue to the broker or office manager is because on all of that previous communication or citations that we sent to you, they were copied on. So they should know that you're not complying, that we're trying to reach you, we're trying to get some data within the MLS corrected, and you're not responding. So at that point, it's up to them to follow up with you and say, hey, why aren't you responding? So that's where the supervision clause of this rule comes in. Okay, so moving on to mandatory delivery and submission of listings. So this has to do with the clear cooperation policy that NAR approved a few years back. This only affects residential vacant lot and land listings and residential 1 through 4 unit properties. So basically this has to do with off MLS properties, properties that have a listing agreement but have not been entered into the MLS. So no longer can you market any listing that it has a valid listing agreement and you haven't put it in the MLS, you can't market those anymore. So they used to be called pocket listings. Some people still may refer to them as those, but I refer to them as excluded or off MLS properties. So again, you can no longer market them to the public. So what is considered to be marketing? Things such as signs, websites, social media posts, brokerage or franchise operated websites, communications, verbal or written, any multi-brokerage or franchise listing sharing networks, flyers, written materials, or even conducting an open house. All of those things would be considered to be marketing. So you cannot market to the public. So who is the public? Well, the public is everyone with the exception of only 2 things. The first exception is an individual or entity that has signed within the last 12 months with you the AD form or the agency disclosure, or I'm sorry, the agency relationship form. If you have a client within the last 12 months has signed that form with you that identifies you as the listing broker, they will not be considered to be a member of the public, and it's okay if you have an off MLS property to market that property to them. The other entity is another agent that's operating under the same designated broker as you. So any other agent in your office operating under the same broker's license is not considered to be a member of the public, and you are allowed to market an off MLS property to them. That is it. Everyone else is considered to be a member of the public. So if you have a listing agreement, you have it signed, you have 2 days from the effective list date on that agreement to input the listing as one of the following: either coming soon or active, or if you're going to exclude that listing for any amount of time, or maybe for even the duration of the listing agreement, you now need to enter that listing into our registered portal. So you're not entering the listing into the MLS. Registered listings are not in the MLS. They are in basically a whole separate little world off to the side, if you will. If you're not excluding a property, then you don't even need to concern yourself with registered. This only pertains to excluded properties or properties that you're not entering into the MLS. So again, you have 2 days from the effective list date. If you're excluding your property, you need to enter it as registered. If you're not excluding it, then you need to enter it as coming soon or active. If you have excluded a property and you have entered it as registered, as you should, but you market that property, then within 1 business day of marketing the property, if it's registered or excluded, you must take it from being a registered or excluded listing and make it coming soon or active. because again, it goes back to you cannot market an excluded or off MLS listing to the public. So if you've done all the right things and you've entered it as registered and it's kind of sitting off to the side waiting to either go coming soon or active at some point, and you market it, then unfortunately you're going to lose some excluded time that you thought you might have. So to recap, registered, there's no public marketing, which we talked about. Registered listings are not displayed in the MLS because they're not in the MLS. So registered basically is a process. It's not a status. It's only a process. You don't have to offer commission on these. There's no DOM that accrues. Showings are only to those with to the listing broker's clients or those with that AD form. And then the form that's required is an exclusion form. So the exclusion form, the old process before registered was if you were excluding a property, you would send us the exclusion form, we would keep it on file, and that's all there was to it. Now, instead of sending us that form, we ask you to go into your dashboard and register the listing instead. So it's, again, it's a process and it's kind of a tracking process for us. So we know, hey, there's a valid listing agreement in effect, but they're not going to enter it into the MLS. So moving on to coming soon, this has a whole new set of characteristics. Coming soon is a status. These are in the MLS. You are allowed to market coming soon listings, but you do have to note on the marketing that the property is coming soon. It has to say the words coming soon, and you have to note what your start showing date is going to be. So you only have 21 days to use the status of coming soon. You don't have to use all 21, but you have up to 21 days that you can use. Day 22, if you don't make the listing active yourself, then on day 22, the system will make the listing active for you. Once the listing leaves the status of coming soon, you cannot go back. So it's not like other status changes where you can flip in between them. Coming soon, once you leave it, you cannot go back. So if you're going to be leaving the status, make sure that you really are ready to do so. Coming soons are displayed in the MLS, so any search criteria, they will populate. Commission does need to be offered because they are in the MLS, and one of the rules is that if a listing is in the MLS, you do have to offer some form of commission or compensation. The DOM does not accrue during coming soon. So throughout those 21 days, if you use all 21, your DOM's not going to accrue. So it's a free marketing period for you, really, because you can market the property. So if you want to put a yard sign up with a sign that says coming soon, that's great exposure for you. You've got 21 days to do that. You're welcome to flip-flop within those 21 days. So let's say that initially your seller says, hey, I want to go coming soon for 10 days. And then 10 days comes along and they say, oh, I'm not quite ready yet. Can we have another 5? Yes, you can. You can go in and adjust your start showing date, no problem. It works the opposite way too. So let's say that you started off with 10 days as coming soon, but your seller comes to you and says, hey, I'm ready now, and it's only been 5 days. You can change your start showing date and go active earlier. So you've got some flexibility there. MLS distribution only. So these listings do not get syndicated out to third parties. They stay as coming soon only within the MLS. The form that's required, there's a coming soon form. I'll show you an example of that and show you where to find it. You are allowed to accept offers while you're in the status of coming soon. But the biggest thing that you need to know about coming soon is that you cannot show the property while you are in coming soon. So you can mark it, but there are no showings. So no showings by the listing agent, any buyer's agents, the seller can't show the property. No one can show the property while it's in coming soon. Again, going back to, you are allowed to accept offers. So let's say your seller accepts an offer from a buyer and the buyer says, I want to see the property. You're going to have to come out of coming soon in order to show that buyer the property. And if they get there and they decide, no, we don't want this property after all, you left the status of coming soon, so now you can't go back. So now you're kind of stuck in active. So be sure, again, that everyone understands there are no showings of a coming soon property. Okay, so showing of a coming soon is so important to understand that it has its own rule. So it's rule 9.3. So for any property in which a listing broker selected a status of coming soon or hold, the listing broker represents that the property shall have no showings or tours by the listing broker or otherwise, meaning by anyone, until such time as the property is placed active or active under contract status. So where does hold come in? So let's say you reach 21 days and maybe your seller's still not ready. Now they say they're going to need an extra 10 days. You tell them, I can only use coming soon for 21 days. Tomorrow the listing's going to go active. You do have the option at that point to go from coming soon and place the property on hold. On hold, you're still allowed to market, but again, just like coming soon, there are no showings while the status of hold is in effect. You also need to have written authorization from your seller to place the status into hold. So anytime you have a status change, regardless of what you're changing to or from, you always have to have written authorization from your seller to change the status on their listing. Here's the coming soon form. So you must have this form if you're going to, you must have it signed by your seller if you're going to be using the status of coming soon. If you don't have this form and we ask for it at some point down the road for whatever reason, it is unfortunately a no warning violation. So you won't receive a warning, but you will receive a citation with a fine amount of $750. So it's crucial that you know if you're using the status of coming soon, you have to have this form signed. You can find this form under compliance on our website. It is available in zip forms, but it's a little difficult to find. And then it's also available on our Clear Cooperation page on our website. So to wrap up coming soon, again, you have a valid listing agreement with no offer in place, but you are allowed to accept offers after you're in the status of coming soon. You have seller signed instruction to submit the listing as coming soon, meaning you have the coming soon form. You are allowed to advertise and market as long as your advertising indicates that the property is coming soon and you include the date that the property will become active. And then the property is not available for showings. Hold, same thing. You can market and advertise. You cannot show the property and you must have seller signed instruction to go from coming soon to hold. So the citation policy for these Clear Cooperation rules is a little bit different than that initial citation policy that I showed you. So those were set fine amounts. These are a percentage. Well, they started out as a percentage of the list price of the property, but we did set some parameters. So it could be a minimum fine of $500 all the way up to $2,500 for violation of some of these Clear Cooperation rules. And then just some of the advantages of CRMLS. So if you're a broker, we have trainings for your office, we have presentations, we have an IDX feed, we have a dedicated monthly broker newsletter and support number for you. Education. So this is our education department. If you go on their portion of the website, they have all sorts of webinars that you can sign up for. How-to videos are available there. Webinars that have been recorded are there. Our support department, so this is our customer care department. So they're the ones that when you do call in with any issues, they answer the phone. They're available to you 7 days a week, so you're never lost on the weekends without any help. They're Monday through Friday via live chat and phone from 8:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. and then from 10 to 5 on Saturday and Sunday. And then the compliance department, of course, you can reach us always via live chat from 8:30 to 4, Monday through Friday. If you go to our website, again, you can find, that's where you access our live chat. We have lots of FAQs and resources, our full rules and policies, our citation policy. I'd like to make a note here that we do receive about 3,000 reports a month. Coming directly, most of them come directly from the listings of other agents reporting violations. We get some through chat and some through email. But our compliance department is here. We're here to help you. We would love for you to be proactive and reach out to us if you're not sure about something rather than just doing it and then finding out later that it was a violation. So please reach out to us via live chat. We never make it a process of ours to go into the MLS and search for violations. That is not something that we do ever. We simply process reports that we receive from your peers. If another way to reach us instead of live chat is through our email. So our email, we have about a 24-hour turnaround, sometimes sooner, but this is our email address here. It's compliance@crmls.org. And again, we encourage you to be proactive and reach out ahead of time before you have to hear from us on the other end. So that is all that I have for you today. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to stick around for a minute to answer them.
Thank you very much. This is Linda,
Hi.
Linda, the broker for the office. So I really appreciate this. I always get a lot of phone calls regarding clear,
Clear cooperation.
cooperation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get a lot on that. And if you guys just go to CRMLS.org and then you scroll down the page, there's some great visual tools there that you can utilize for that, little charts, some of which you just saw, when to use the forms, and they're great. So you can
Right.
also go there as well.
And everything that I did present today can be found on our website under compliance. So if you want to know what the top violations are, again, that knowledge-based button with the search bar, type in top violations, type in clear cooperation, type in registered or coming soon, and it's going to bring up everything that we have available to you there.
Thank you so much for the class today. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for having me anytime.
You guys
Thank
have
you.
any questions?
No
Yes,
questions. Thank you, Linda, and thank you for having this. This is
Yeah,
Paula.
thank you.
Paula, go ahead with your question.
No, I just wanted to say thank you for having this information.
You're welcome.
oh, hi, thank you. This is Janice. Is there any way because unfortunately I was late getting in, I was having problems. Can I get a recording of this? How do I do that?
Yes, it was recorded. So if you want to send me an email, please,
Okay,
and I can send you the link. It doesn't populate right away. It takes a few hours before they send it back to me, but yeah, I'd be happy to send it to you.
okay, so I go into compliance@crmls.org.
Correct.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mhm.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, well, I wish everybody a great and productive day, and hopefully I'll see you all again.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.